the reason why, obviously you, Robbie, and me and Gavin, we've decided to go, the independent media route, which is obviously the less profitable, the more arduous, whatever route. But the consequences of not doing that, even when you're on a supposed left platform, right? So, well, of course, we're talking about First Look Media and the Intercept. You mentioned the Glenn Greenwald controversy. He wanted to do completely fact-based reporting on the Hunter Biden scandal, which had been completely covered up by mainstream media. What's her name? Betsy Reed at the Intercept, and whoever else at First Look Media kind of put the poured water on it. Essentially, no, Glenn Greenwald having the cloud and the being the kind of reporter that he is, he was like, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't care that I founded this place. I'm going to leave, etc. And that's the kind of shit that, thankfully somebody like Glenn Greenwald can do and still, make a career and, have people follow him. But the consequences of being like a starting reporter and just getting your story squashed, obviously you don't have if you have paying rent and you're like just moved into an apartment and, like what the fuck can you do? You got to be like, God damn it, I fucking hate my job now, but my story got squashed and I have to pay rent. I got to fucking, feed my kid, do whatever. So I'm just wondering if you can talk about how that presents itself in, places that we think are nominally left media.
Well, look, as you make an excellent point. Glenn Greenwald, for all intents and purposes, for a while there, pretty much was the Intercept, right? Pretty much 90% of the reason anybody read the Intercept was because, hey, we were waiting on the next Greenwald report, and so seeing that happen to him. But yes, you're right. He had the clout, to just basically say, hey, I don't need this. I'll take my readers with me. And basically
he did. If you look at the most recent shit,
yes, that's actually a very good point.
Yeah,
that's
you
a great
look
point.
At Ryan
actually,
Grimm's Twitter account is going a little bit neoliberal right now. He's trying to get those readers back.
Oh boy, yeah. But see, look, I mean, but you're right. If you're somebody that maybe just started over there, and maybe your story doesn't, maybe it does get completely squashed, and you have to start from scratch. I mean, that's a huge monetary problem for you right there, especially like I said, you're just starting out. You're not making over $250,000 a year like Ryan Grimm. You're making whatever, but say you just get a large section of your piece just completely removed because that's not something that we're going to talk about, basically. Even though it of course, as it always does in the end, Greenwald was completely justified because the Post wound up being completely justified with what they reported and got censored for on social media, as we all remember. So it just makes it, whenever you go the censorship route, the way that I remember, at least growing up, reporting used to be like, if you wanted to stake your credibility on a story and put it out there, if it was false, somebody was going to fact check. Other outlets were going to take your report, fact check it, comb through it, and either confirm it, as oftentimes happens, as you'll see, or find every single loophole in it and basically destroy your credibility because you went out on a limb and you took a chance reporting something that you may not have found to be completely true. And that was kind of like the free market system, so to speak, of independent or just media in general. Like, if you wanted to stake your reputation on a false story, you were going to get found out and your credibility would be shot. And now you're the Daily Beast, right? You're a tabloid.
I get a promotion and a $10 million contract at MSNBC, but I digress.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, and that's the thing about the Intercept in particular, though, was, like I said, in its early days, Scahill and Glean.
I actually have a lot of respect for Jeremy Scahill's early
reporting. I do too.
Yeah, I think his Blackwater and his Dirty War reporting, those are two great books. His war reporting is top notch, which makes me sad that he didn't go to.
Well, I mean, I still stand by a lot of Ryan Grimm's reporting. To be honest, he's a good reporter in some instances.
I would say yes, but my beef with Grimm is that, look, I have respect for the reporting he's done for sure. Maybe not so much lately, but he's definitely.
He's done a few good pieces. He did a really good rundown of the Nevada Democratic Party being taken over by DSA.
That was an interesting article.
Yeah, I feel like he's technically a good journalist. He's just being influenced and going in a weird direction, I think.
I feel like he spends too much time punching down. Yeah. Right. Honestly, whether or not we want to be like, I feel like he spends an inordinate amount of time shitting on third parties.
That's
you
true.
know, and
For no fucking reason.
and
too,
I
that
don't
we know the
yeah.
tweet we're talking about from the other day where he was like, "Oh, Kristen Sinema used to be a fucking Green Party person, and now the Green Party also doesn't want finance for all this horse shit." It was one of the worst takes I've ever seen in my life. But anyway,
Yes, because no, but you make an excellent point, and that's the reason why the Intercept is getting so much crap these days is because some of their most prominent journalists, arguably Ryan Grimm at this point, is out here just he's being completely disingenuous for one. Kristen Cinema, like even at this point in her career, even equating her with the Green Party currently,
Yeah,
that's beyond a reach, right? That's something.
Yeah, and talk about obfuscation. She's a current fucking Democrat, the party you shill for. Like, what the fuck kind of obfuscation to cognitive gymnastics is that? But
hasn't it been years since Cinema even resembled?
I think a decade.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's like
I mean, like I said, that's a stretch, but also
2 decades,
Grimm's being a little bit disingenuous again with the Green Party, saying the Green Party is coming out against publicly funded elections.
Right, they're just against HR 1.
Specifically because, and Grimm knows this because he's a smart guy, and I'm sure he's read the bill. I'm sure he wrote an article on this, or they did a podcast on it, if I'm not mistaken, recently. He knows that HR 1 moves the goalposts on third parties almost completely out of reach. As far as qualification for the publicly funded, like the 6-to-1 matching, stuff like that, it almost makes it damn near impossible for third parties to qualify for that because of the amount of donations that they would now have to do that. And he, like I said, he knows that, but for some reason he's just got some kind of attraction to shitting on third parties, and I don't know why. I mean, because like I say, he could be using these resources that he has to do anything. Great journalism.
I'll ask you a question that I've been scratching my head about, Robbie, and we talked about this on the show a little bit, and far be it for me to critique anybody for being successful. I don't give a shit about that, right? Like, I'm not going after Ryan Grimm because he gets like 1,000,000% of the readership that I'll get, whatever, right? But I'm wondering if there is something about trying to position yourself as a leftist, as a progressive journalist, as somebody with those priorities, the priorities that are aligned with the working class and the broader, American interest. When you're making 300 racks a year, and your interests are just naturally going to be, perverted by capital, essentially, right? If I'm making $300,000 a year, I probably got 2 cribs. Like, I'm thinking about property taxes differently. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just wonder if at some point as a journalist, you're making too much money to be rooted in the reality of the world that you need to be commenting on. Like, as a working class journalist, like, and obviously, you know this too. Like, if you go to a job where you punch in and you punch out, and then you go and spend your night working on this shit, it's because you fucking care about this shit and you're seeking the truth and you want to tell people the truth, right? Your motivation becomes different when you're like, I need to get my fucking subscription counter. I'm fucked as the DC bureau chief for the Intercept. I hope that Putin, sends another letter or does something that we can talk about.
No, look, yeah, I mean, I obviously I can't relate to any journalist that
me neither,
pulling in that, but I can imagine that getting whenever you've got the apartment in New York and then you've got the apartment in DC, and you're constantly having to travel between. I mean, look, when you're on that level of the journalism scale here, yeah, I'm sure your interest it's got to be damn near impossible to not stray from a working class mentality, because I don't know. I feel like that kind of like I said, I can't relate.
Yeah.
All I do know is that his rhetoric definitely shows it sometimes. When he gets out here on Twitter and he starts talking like he does, especially about like the Green Party and stuff like that, it makes it's like, okay, I don't feel like with somebody with a voice like that, with a platform like that, no matter how progressive or like if in my opinion, now this is could just be me, the progressive position on third parties should be to always uplift. Not saying that they're perfect, right, and that they don't need scrutiny, right, because God knows there was plenty to go around for the Green Party during the primaries for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's fine, but basically smearing them for no reason. I mean, because that's what that was. I mean, whenever you're just coming out like that, and it just kind of makes people look at it, and then like I don't know, there's that thing about credibility that you don't actually have to really lose it in order to lose it, because once you get to a certain level, right, you get to that guilt by association thing. You get that, and that especially plays into the money, right? Where they get all their money from. And so whenever you start doing that, and then you start drifting away from the message, and then we start having the conversation. Well, is Grimm supposed to be an activist first and a journalist second, or is he supposed to, do the opposite, right? And and if that's not what he really feels, I mean, because then you start having a discussion. You could be a centrist that just covers progressive politics because it's your
that's
niche.
what it feels like, though. I don't know, and maybe that's just the vibe that I'm getting, right? And I think that's becoming a bigger lane, right? A person who has relative centrist. Yeah, sure. Yeah, healthcare for everybody. That sounds good. Like, yeah, we got to save the planet, but not like rooted in
Well, it's the same reason. It's the same reason we need working class representation in politics itself. Journalism is the same way. To accurately report on and hold these people to account, we need working class people. And you're absolutely right that it's this kind of liberal that equated, Elizabeth Warren to Bernie Sanders and said they were the same. And I think Ryan Grimm supported Elizabeth Warren, which makes his recent statements, I guess, less surprising to me. It's not like it's all that new of a revelation for Grimm in particular that he is kind of of that more liberal, mindset, I guess. But certainly it does exist. And I did want to talk a little bit about the funding too, because you actually had a good Twitter thread from back in August, I believe, Robbie, where you went over their parent company First Look and discussed a little bit about their recent influx in funding. It says here that the Intercept's parent company First Look Media got $31 million in funding from billionaire-backed Silicon Valley Community Foundation in 2018 per recent IRS filings. That accounted to 95% of that year's funding, an increase of over 100% from 2017.
Yeah.
Yep. So in actually beyond that, I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna pull up my notes right here. They took another like 25 million from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation in 2019. So here's the thing. We all know the story. Well, just in case you don't know, like quickly, the story of First Look Media, founded and basically funded, or at least we thought, by eBay founder and longtime chairman Pierre Omidyar, and he, basically he that's the parent company, right? The Intercept is completely funded by First Look Media, and basically, yeah. So the Silicon Valley Community Foundation is the one that essentially makes up all of First Look's funding. So they can't really get the whole independent media claim thing to me.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, right? Isn't that why they have to ask for reader support, right? Because they're trying to maintain their status. Whereas, is that the case?
Well, that's my thing is I don't understand. That there's kind of that there's that mixed messaging thing again, right? You've got all of this, you've got millions of billionaire support, but you're emailing people for their $5.
Yeah, that shit pisses me off too.
Saying, hey, we need reader support. We just help keep independent media alive. Look, let me tell you, your viewers something. The Intercept is not in trouble, right? The Intercept isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You can just look at this. You can look at these numbers right now. Like, even if Ryan Grimm has to take a pay cut, the Intercept's still going to be around for a while, right? You're getting $31 million a year from basically a amalgamation of the biggest tech Silicon Valley billionaires in existence. Now, and most prominently recently, that we know of, Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz, who is also a massive DNC party donor. And actually he actually was funding, he spent like, oh my gosh, I want to say it's like over $30 million funding one of Joe Biden's super PACs this past election. So yeah, I think his Moskovitz's nonprofit called Good Ventures basically sends every dime that it gets straight to the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and they themselves raise about, like it was like $1.4 billion, $1.7 billion in 2019, and then of course they spend that money funding other nonprofits and stuff like that. And of course, one of those nonprofits would be First Look Media, and it's just that trickle down money. So it's kind of hard whenever you look at an Intercept nowadays, when that whenever you follow the money up to the top, it's stopping at one of like a top 5 DNC mega donor. Yep. And that's just the ones we know of. I mean, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation doesn't necessarily disclose their donors. We kind of have to cross-reference these things. And like we know Jack Dorsey has donated in the past. Mark Zuckerberg has donated in the past. Oracle CEO Larry Ellison, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings. All of these guys at one point or another have donated a large amount of money to this to this nonprofit, and that's where the Intercept's money comes from.
Yeah, and it's such shady bullshit too, because they try, like I'm pretty sure they do still have 501c3 status. Is that correct?
First Look Media does.
Yeah,
yes.
So and that's because they do this thing where, and you touched on it earlier, right? Where they act like they're like some fucking alt weekly magazine that's desperate for fucking funds. And if you don't support us, then we might not be able to keep this power checking journalism in place. So, and it's like when fucking Vox Media is like, do you want to keep Vox free? Like fucking, like, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's almost insulting, right? Because it's like, how much money these corporations are making. They just bought New York Magazine when in the instance of Vox Media or whatever, or maybe they got bought by one way or the other. They're owned by conglomerates, media conglomerates. Yeah. They don't need your hard-earned support, right? Or your hard-earned money to support them and to sustain themselves. They're already serving their role as stooges of the oligarchs, and it keeps people who are usually well-intentioned, right? If you're reading the Intercept, you think you're reading, you think you're, for the most people, right? Especially, that's like reaching for most people if you're actually reading articles on the Intercept like thoroughly.
And admittedly, most of it is better than the mainstream media, like the most of the rest of the mainstream media.
But the point that I'm meaning is that those, if you are there, you should be actually funding independent journalism. You should be actually getting the stuff that you think you're getting from the Intercept. So in a way, it almost serves as like a proxy, right? Like you're getting what you think is the like deep stuff, but really it's still going through that filtration of neoliberal politics.
Yeah. Well, here's how I would look at that specifically. So, for one thing, as much grief as I give the Young Turks for their constant fundraising, giving that we know that they've got friends in high places and have taken their money and probably would again if offered, right? But I feel like what the Intercept does is a bit more egregious, right? Because I feel like they ask for money just as often, but they have, we all give, like I said, TYT grief for the Katzenberg thing, the Intercept has got, like I said, they've got some of the biggest power players now. Katzenberg is kind of old money at this point in the grand scheme of things. He's kind of a bygone thing. I mean, he's still kind of relevant, but he's not the guy no more. Moskowitz is like the guy, one of the top 3 guys. Now, but here's the thing. I don't have a problem necessarily with the Intercept or TYT for that matter, asking their viewers for money, but just be honest about it. Yeah. Don't make it sound like they're reporting hangs in the balance if you don't donate your $5, because it doesn't. It really doesn't. These guys are going to be fine without that. If it's like, hey, we would appreciate a donation if you'd like to chip in. I don't necessarily have a problem with anybody doing that. I mean, if you're funded by billionaires and making like $31 million from tech billionaires a year, I mean, I feel that's in poor taste. But at least you're being honest with your readers. And that's another, you have a good, a kind of a good point there with what you said, Zach, about, if you're reading the Intercept and you don't know like what we're talking about right now, right? You just see the Intercept and you take them at face value. You take them at what they say. They say that they are progressive, independent media, right? So you read that. And while they do produce more, I would say, progressive content than much, like I said, of the like Gavin said, of the mainstream media. what they're not telling you is that the person funding what you're reading couldn't be farther away from the progress. And I feel like there's that disconnect, right? Because there's HR1, as we referenced earlier, has got a little thing in there about, how they would add not only like the name of the super PAC at the bottom of an election ad that funded it, but actually the top donors of that super PAC that funded that, right? And I feel like a certain thing in media would be effective as well, because I'm reading the Intercept and they say they're progressive, they say they're independent, right? Whatever that means at this point, because it's just been so bastardized by now. But they say this, but if you look at the fine print, it's like, it's funded by Pierre Omidyar and Dustin Moskovitz, and you start looking up them and who they've donated to and the millions of dollars they've spent, Moskovitz in particular, to influence the elections, and who they've done, and then you start really seeing, okay, why would you start to realize why certain things read the way they do in the Intercept. And I'm not trying to hate on the Intercept as a whole, because I agree with Gavin. There are still lots of good journalists trying to do great work there, whether or not they're being stifled by editorial or not, I don't know. But I feel like the major players, man, I mean, look, whenever you start giving Mehdi Hassan like any kind of like real run, that was where you kind of lost me on that, because he took it, he made the Intercept to me, look like MSNBC.
Well, where is he now, right?
Exactly where he, and I feel like the Intercept has kind of gone.
And Mehdi, actually, when I first started listening to Deconstructed, it was weird to me, because when I first started listening to him, I was like, this guy's pretty reasonable. And then over time, like, he just kind of spiraled out of his mind with Trump, and he hella Russiagated and just like, all kinds of things. And it was one of those things where now it's just kind of like a running joke between me and Gavin that, MSNBC is attracting, like, Interceptors. So yeah.
Well, right. Well, and that's what I think, that also the Intercept is attracting MSNBC types too at this point. And I think it's kind of a mutual thing.
Cross pollination, yeah.
Right. And then, and look, I want to make it clear that, look, the Russiagate thing, I'm not just shitting on the Intercept just to do that. I actually donated to the Intercept for a long time. I was a long time reader of theirs. I was a fan of Greenwald's, obviously, but I really looked forward to Scahill stuff, and stuff like that. So I was in it. Lee Fang as well used to do really good stuff for them.
Yeah, he's done a lot of great reporting.
So I was in it, and then I feel like the Russiagate stuff, man. It's kind of like.
Same with
that, yes, that's your red flag, like every time, because that's straight intelligence community talking points, 100%. And I'm reading the Intercept to get away from that. I want to see something that's not so blatantly
challenged,
right? Exactly, not just parroted, right? Just like so many other outlets.
And make hires specifically people that they can see, like, see, this person didn't support the Iraq, or they were writing critically about Iraq back in the day, and now look, they believe in Russiagate, so clearly it's a fact, right? Like doing like those kinds of shady legacy media moves, right? Where it's like, we're gonna use somebody that we think is going to be an effective messenger for our argument. Specifically because we've paid them off now and they're not doing as good of work as they used to.
Yeah, right. I did want to bring up something, because actually someone who Zach and I here at the Vanguard are a big fan of, Brianna Joy Gray. She used to be their senior political analyst, I believe, over at the Intercept, or senior politics editor, rather, former senior politics editor. And she actually defended the Intercept recently. I forget which interview it was, but she was on an interview, or it might have been on her own podcast maybe, and she was talking about how the Intercept, they're asking for money now. They're begging their readers for money now, because they're trying to get away from the big money. They're trying to become independent now. And to me, I'm like, is it really our responsibility as the grassroots to wean you off fucking corporate money? Like, I would love to see these journalists go start their own independent things like Glenn Greenwald did, but that is within their, realm of possibility. They can go do that now. They don't need to, empty our pockets as readers.
They have a way easier fucking time than the Vanguard.
Yeah. I mean, look, I for the record, I love Brianna Joy Gray, right?
Same.
But I would also say I'm not losing any sleep over the Intercept begging for money because I'm broke. So there's that. But also, but also, it's kind of, maybe you guys don't need to make $275,000 a year. Make you start there. I know maybe you might want to take a pay. I mean, look, and I agree, Gavin. It's not our responsibility to wean you off of your billionaire friend's money. To be quite honest with you, because you built something off of billionaire money.
That's what I mean.
Right? You exploded it, and now you're expecting us to take over the bill for it.
10 years in.
And that's not how that works. The way it works is that we help you build it, right? We build it with you, right? And then we sustain it. Because if we don't like your content, or you stray away from the message, or you stray away from what got you there, then we stop supporting you, and then you collapse and you can't sustain.
Look at TYT though. TYT's been bleeding subscribers, and there was I saw Glenn Greenwald retweet the numbers of the Intercept, right? All of these outlets, they're losing subscribers left and right.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Intercept too, though, is that I saw the email about since Trump's out of office, our donations have dropped. And I was like, well, no, I don't really think that it has as much to do with Trump being out of office as the fact that Greenwald left. Quite honestly, yeah, and I think that's got a huge.
Of the fucking Intercept.
He's, like I said, almost anybody that I know, outside of people like us that really follow this stuff, but the people that I know that just casual into the news and politics that have heard of the Intercept, they only know one person affiliated with it, right? Because almost everybody knows who Greenwald is, at this point, with the Snowden stuff, being so mainstream as a story. But
and then internationally, he broke the car wash stuff, and I think that Lula,
he basically
now.
Thankfully, look, and that's what I can't stand about people trying to say, Greenwald's not he's not this, he's not that, or whatever. The man basically got Lula out of prison. The man's reporting,
say whatever the fuck. He's got to, there is room to criticize Glenn Greenwald,
right,
but
sure,
his reporting is fucking rock solid, and we've always said there's no way that dude's not publishing something that his reporting has been rock solid. You know what I mean?
And especially that article that created the disagreement, it really wasn't anything that crazy. No. It's not like he was printing lies. It's not like he was using shoddy sources. It was an opinion piece that he expressed, an unpopular opinion within that kind of liberal circle that has been established at the Intercept, and they decided they didn't want to platform it. And it's as simple as that. It's not like he was, doing journalistic malpractice.
And I'll go back to the point, and you're right, but I'll go back to the thing about, how, you follow the money up to the top, and you've got DNC mega donor Dustin Moskovitz, who spent tens of millions getting Joe Biden elected. Now, did Moskovitz have anything to do with the decision to censor Greenwald's article? Absolutely not. Probably, almost definitely not. But here's the thing, Biden, and then you can't, or you get censored, or whatever happens with that, and then you look at who the owners or who the people that fund the net or fund the outlet that censored you, right? Yeah. The people that are donating millions of dollars to the person you're writing about, even in that just breeds distrust. It hurt, even if there is nothing nefarious going on. The fact of the matter is that Glenn Greenwald was trying to publish an article that was critical of Joe Biden, and the Intercept, censored him. And the Intercept also happens to be an outlet that is funded by one of Joe Biden's biggest donors, and that is at the very least a huge optics issue.
An appearance of corruption.
Yeah, and why people look at the Intercept the way they do nowadays, because whenever you put those two and two together, it's like, oh well, those two things could be just coincidences, and sure, that's always possible, sure. But the fact of the matter is the appearance that you're basically making people that used to trust you look at you and be like, man, really, So you guys are funded by guys that love Biden, and now you're not allowed to publish this story about Biden. It just looks bad. It just looks bad. And Go for it.
100%.
Yeah, sorry.
I wanted to say one other thing too, which is, and this is a point that I've made on this show, the fact that Ryan Grimm, he is the one that published the Tara Reid allegations, which also were very controversial. And I'm not sure if this is true or not. I'm not sure if Ryan Grimm is playing this level of 4D chess or if the Intercept is at this level of 4D chess. But people did make the point that if Ryan Grimm hadn't published that piece of Tara Reid when he did, it would have been published a lot closer to the election by right wingers probably. Because that story was out there. It wasn't just the Intercept that knew about it. So in a sense, Ryan Grimm and the Intercept actually potentially saved Joe Biden for, they got that scandal out of the way for him at the beginning of the race instead of right before people started voting. So again, I don't know if that was at all intentional, if they were trying to, make that story big and then let it die before the election happened because they knew it was going to, pop up and be this huge scandal right before election day. But I certainly think it's worth noting that people have made the point that they actually kind of, helped Trump out there because that story was going to leak regardless.
Right.
Or not.
So what
Trump,
I'll say,
Biden, but yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it might have, but I think that Biden had the smear machine ready to go from day one, no matter what. I mean, look, Biden had the best PR team maybe in history. And we can see that because he won. How he was. I mean, it's crazy. But I will say about this: being a journalist and seeing how a lot of my mainstream counterparts act and operate. Right, I can basically almost tell you that once Grimm got a hold of these allegations, I could assume with almost certainty. I don't know the guy at all, but I can assume he published it when he did. So he could get it, so he could get the scoop. He didn't want he didn't want to get scooped. He had something in his hands. It was really hot, and he wanted to get it out as quick as possible because it's good for his career. I mean, that's the nature of the business. When you have a story nobody else has, you want to be the one to release it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, those allegations, like you said, those were going to come out, and maybe a right-wing outlet or two might have waited until closer to the election. But I think Grimm in that case was just like, I've got the story. Let's get it out as fast as we can. But I will say this though, that's also made him kind of look foolish at times too, with he jumps the gun, not necessarily in his articles, but whenever he's whenever he's on like social media and he's going back and forth with people, he jumps the gun a bit. And I think that we just need to recognize that the Intercept just isn't quite what they used to be. And the moral of the story, at least for me, is this: in whether we're talking about the Intercept or talking about the Young Turks or talking about the Daily Beast, who just wrote this, who can actually spend time in words smearing Jimmy Dore and like half the people I work with for talking to people, like the Boogaloo, like a member of the Boogaloo Boys, or if it's Jack Posobiec or whoever, they spend all this time dragging the so-called dirtbag left through the mud. But hey, when you look a little bit further up the food chain, there, who sits on the board of their parent company? Chelsea Clinton. Fucking one of the managing partners of the largest talent agency in the world, Brian Lord, former Disney CEO, not Bob Iger, Michael Eisner. Look, it all looks like you're not fooling anybody. Like, I think that I've always been a proponent of, since I wrote my first story on the Young Turks up until now, when it comes to media, it doesn't always mean that just because you're funded by X that you're going to be spouting X's viewpoint, but it's always important to know who's paying for the people that are who's paying the checks of the people that are telling you your news. It's very relevant information, to be quite honest with you, because I do feel like in most cases, it's like, how they say dogs kind of inherit the features of their owner, and I feel like that journalists or mainstream pundits wind up taking on the ideologies and the features of the people that pay their paycheck. So like I said, whether we're talking about Intercept or the Young Turks or Daily Beast or whomever, it's always important to know where this money's coming from and what their agenda is, because
Yeah.
it does influence their work from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing from me that I wanted to kind of get your reaction to. I know we're running short on time, but I wanted to
Sure.
ask. It seemed quick. It seemed clear to me after Ken Cliftonstein got brought on to the Intercept, and I think he himself even tweeted that he was like the rebound for Glenn Greenwald. I'm wondering, do you think that was done as like an optics thing to try and get somebody who was like a credentialed, somebody who, and to give Ken his credit, he's done a lot of reporting that I've read and that has been important and critical, and I think he does great work.
He also works at TYT.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's also on their panel all the time now.
But anyway, I just wondered if you had a reaction to that.
Look, I mean, I think I'm not somebody that has followed Ken religiously. From what I have seen, a lot of his stuff, it's been great. So I'm not, look, I'm not going to hate on the man for getting a good job. And I feel like,
I'm just wondering, not specifically so much about Ken. I'm just wondering if you think that was intentionally coming from First Look Media as like a way to try and get back a credible guy. Be like, see, we're not afraid to have somebody that's gonna. I'm just wondering if you think that it was I don't want to say politically motivated, but like, I don't know. Do you think that's what they were reaching for? Because it seemed like he was kind of at a role on at the Nation, and then made the jump.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, look, the Intercept is always. They got to keep up some kind of appearances. I mean, you're not going to be able to replace Greenwald or the readers that he drew you. But what you can do is try to find a new star. You're having problems. Look, Ryan Grimm to me has done great work in the past, but I feel like he does a lot of access journalism. That's not
the whole Intercept does.
But that's not necessary.
You heard the softball interview with Jeremy Scahill and AOC, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was really tough to watch, and actually really disappointing as somebody that really, like I said, in the past has really looked forward to Scahill's reporting whenever he did him in his interviews, especially because he's a great interviewer. That's why that was really disappointing to me. But I feel like what you can do, Ken's not necessarily like an access guy, right? I'm sure that he has his sources because he's been in the game for a while and he knows people. But he's more of an adversarial dude. And I think that's what they need if they're going to try to turn at least the optics around. Yeah, I think if we had a free agent market out there, I think that that was a good signing for the Intercept for sure, especially if you're trying to gain some of that, like I said, adversarial cred now. Because then here's the thing: I mean, Trump's not in office anymore. And there's no election going on. There's no Bernie Sanders to cheer for, as far as the campaign goes. So now we really have this opportunity, not just, me, but you guys as well, all of our colleagues in this indie media space. The mainstream media is going, and they've already gone back to sleep. They're going to be absent for at least the next 4 years. There's going to be a void for, objective journalism, especially critiquing the Biden administration, because nobody's going to want to do it. And the outlets that have skated by without having to do it, are going to either have to start or they're going to have to invent a new boogeyman and push him into the limelight, just like they did Trump. So what I say is that, if you still read the Intercept and stuff like that, good. They don't really need your money. But I would also suggest, look, the Intercept and like that model of media is kind of going by the wayside now. I mean, they still have their place, and they can do some good work. But the future is, we're the future, guys. I mean, honestly, we are the ones that are going to. We have to at least bring back objective journalism. Because if not, then we won't have journalism. What we have now is just varying flavors of propaganda, and that's it's dangerous because we need an informed population. We need to be able to actually realize that the game isn't Democrat versus Republican. The game is the oligarchy class versus all the rest of us.
Well, Robbie, I mean,
and-
that's why we invite you on our show. Honestly, it's because I mean, Zach and I are got the commentary down, but we really do value your journalism and really have found your reporting to be objective and to be, really holding the powerful, the corporate America to account. So, I mean, thank you so much for the work you're doing.
I appreciate it. Any success that I have comes from people like you guys and like Nico and anybody that cares enough to actually read my work and amplify it, have me on the show. So I always appreciate it. I love what you guys do. I watch your show every chance I get. So
Thanks, man.
you guys definitely do a good job. So I would just say the same thing to you guys. Just keep it up, keep plugging at it. Even when it gets tiresome and it does get tiresome, you're gonna get burned out, but just keep doing it because we're gonna need you guys around. Because like I said, you can't. All the other outlets that we used to go to for what we needed, it's hard to trust them now. So we have to be the media now. So like I said, I'm glad that I've got comrades like you guys out there, and I'm glad you guys had me on tonight. So I appreciate it. Have me back anytime, guys, for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Well, we'll definitely be in touch, and I'm sure, we'll definitely have you back on the show. Here in the next couple of weeks. It seems like we've been on a solid schedule. About once a month. So I'm sure we can keep that up. And great to build. Keep building independent voices and coalitions in media. And we thanks so much for your time tonight, man. It was great chatting with you and great catching up.
Sure, man. Yep. Shameless plug. Catch me on Twitter at Rob
for sure. Yeah, you don't have to jump off yet.
Catch me. Oh no, yeah. Oh yeah, I was just going to say at Twitter, Rob Little Fire, at Rockfin, Rob Little Fire. If you want to support me or just follow me and keep up with the shit I'm talking about. And if you guys have 5 minutes or you guys get bored later on tonight and you need something to do, I would totally suggest maybe reading up a little bit of literature on autism and its effects on children, so we can help build a more inclusive and educated world for our neurodivergent brothers and sisters out there. And with that, I'm out. Thank you guys so much. I'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, have a good night, man. Take it easy.
Thanks so much, Robbie. We appreciate that. Yeah, so that was Robbie Yeager. Great conversation on the Intercept, and make sure to check out his reporting, guys. I did link his Twitter in the description, and via his Twitter, you can access his Rockfin, which is probably how he's relying on for funding. You can tip people on Rockfin and stuff. So I would urge you guys to check that out as well. We're also on Rockfin, so make an account there if you're not already. It's where you want to be. But I just wanted to say as one last thing, because you mentioned it, Zach, that I totally forgot about that Jeremy Scahill interview with AOC. And
I want to pull my fucking hair out.
Dude, and it reminded me because Robbie was saying about how the Russiagate reporting was really like a big red flag for him when he realized what was going on, that maybe they were trying to changing lanes or whatever. For me, along with the Russiagate stuff, it was also their treatment and reporting on Assange and their refusal to push back on AOC when she did give that terrible answer on Assange. And I think that's another a huge red flag is Assange in general. When outlets or commentators start, kind of ignoring that or just kind of
especially the Intercept, which is literally founded on the backbone of the Snowden relations. Like, it's just baffling. It's ridiculous, but
it's crazy. It's crazy. Speaking of independent media and being funded by small contributors, thanks so much to our patrons. You can join by clicking the link in the description, patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. We really do appreciate that support, guys. Obviously, this is a people-powered show, and just like Robbie, we're also doing independent work here, and we really, really appreciate all the support.